Hey, Ohio, welcome once again to the Retirement Blueprint Show with Tim Lofton of Axum Planning and Wealth. I'm Spike Spangle, and every single week we want to help you with retirement planning solutions. Tim Lofton, what's on your mind this week, my man?
Got a question for you, Spike.
Okay.
When it comes to retirement, are you interested or are you obsessed? That's what I want to talk about today.
Well, I would say for where I'm at today, I'm probably more in the interested stage.
Okay.
But when we get to that retirement red zone, I bet you it's getting closer to the obsessed stage, right?
Well, the question is, when do you need to be obsessed? Because think about all the things that you've got to get right. If you show up in our office at say 63, 64 years old, and you've just been interested, remember, interested has no destination. It has no sense of urgency. And I would think when it comes to retirement, I want a sense of urgency because I want it to happen, right? And the good news is if I'm a little bit behind, but I'm obsessed about it, I can fix it. It also, being obsessed, allows me to know what the what-ifs are and how to plan for them.
Yeah, I've been interested in going to the gym more.
Right.
But that doesn't get me in to the weight room.
And that's exactly it. I mean, when we say we're interested, it's just exactly like what you said. I want to lose weight. I want a better job. I want to get in shape. Whatever those things are, when they're just interested, the brain doesn't have the ability to know, hey, I need to do this. It's kind of like going on a diet. I go on a diet, my brain knows this is short term. It has an end to it. When I'm obsessed, I make a lifestyle change, my brain does that same thing every day for the rest of my life.
And the difference is, I think many people think that, well, the retirement will just happen.
Right.
We've said before that many people spend a lot more time planning a European vacation than they do their 30-year retirement. But I think you can become more interested and more obsessed the more information you have, right? If I'm trying to figure out how to do something better, whether it's cooking, whether it's learning a new application, something that will make work a little bit easier and faster, you need that information. And then as you start diving into the information, you get obsessed. Oh, I want to get better at this. You need to get started on that information, though. The Retirement Blueprint, it's not a pamphlet or a printout,
Right.
but how does this help you get obsessed?
Well, the obsession starts when you actually get to sit and look at the plan. Because the plan, I think, is exciting from the standpoint of I'm now looking at a pathway to retirement, to be able to do what I want to do with my family, to have the impact that I want to have, to live the life that I wanted to live. And that creates obsession, I think, when you can see it and there's a pathway there. It's exciting. It's just exciting.
Right. And today's retirement planning is, well, it's different than it was 30 or 40 years ago. This isn't the same kind of retirement as our grandparents who maybe worked at one location, received a pension plan, lived for a few years, and maybe grandmother lived a little bit longer. I mean, today you're talking about 30 years, 35 years of income planning. We've got to get obsessed about this.
You have to. And I think of all the things to be obsessed about, health and wealth are the two biggies, because if I have health without wealth, it doesn't do me any good. And if I have wealth without health, it doesn't do me any good. I've got to have both. And so that obsession of taking care of ourselves, taking care of our finances, putting a plan together ensures that you can have a successful retirement.
Right. Now, when we're getting obsessed with it, are we talking about starting to really focus on the investments, understanding how they're going to work, watching the machinations of the ups and downs of the market? Is this where we want to spend our heavy time?
No, Spike, that's actually where we end up after we develop the plan. Because if you look at retirement, remember that for most of us, we've been in those accumulation years. We've been growing the money, we save every month out in our 401k, and growth has been what we've been focused on. Now we're transitioning to that retirement phase, that taking money out. So now we're in distribution mode. That's a completely different place to be. And it has a completely different set of rules that go with it.
Right. Well, let's talk about this, because as I just said on the investments, let's talk even further. Oftentimes we're bumped up against a break. The Retirement Blueprint. What are all of the different aspects of the Retirement Blueprint that you like to cover for folks?
Well, we really want to start with the income plan, and that's basically figuring out how much am I going to need in retirement. And I'm not talking about what I can survive on. I'm talking about what do I have to have coming in every month to do exactly what I want to do, the way I want to do it. Once that income plan is crafted, we're now looking at things like pension claiming strategy and Social Security claiming strategy to make sure that we know how much extra maybe that we're going to need from that nest egg that we've been saving all these years. That then moves on to the tax plan. I've got to know how to take that money out. What strategies can I use to make sure I keep more of what I'm taking out of my plan? Then we have to look at things like long-term care and estate planning. It's all wrapped up into one plan, but each of those cornerstones makes a huge impact on getting the right plan together.
So the retirement blueprint, it's comprehensive. It's a process. It's not a product or a pamphlet that we're going to mail out to you, but you can reach out, get a complimentary review done, get started on your own retirement blueprint that you do with the entire team here of Axum Wealth. I also know that you are back to your live events. One of the things we've been hitting hard this year. Have those been fun, getting back in front of people face to face?
It has. It's been really encouraging. I like the live events because I think that gives people a place to come and learn and ask questions and just kind of get a feel for us, but also for getting a lot of good information that we put out in about 45, 50 minutes.
How about the financial hecklers? People trying to throw you off. What about this election? What about the markets?
It's funny because everybody talks about that. We haven't had any hecklers. Like, if you're watching the show,
you're
a heckler,
going to now.
You got to come to one of our live events. Let's put me on the spot. But no, it's been good. I mean, the information is well received. We really try to focus on making it digestible and applicable to people, so when they leave, they can basically sit down with us, they can have a plan built for them, and then start going to work on enjoying retirement.
Yeah, you don't do that at the workshop itself. You don't build that plan, but you talk about it, what's going on right now, and you can come to one of the live events, ask Tim and the team there from Axum Wealth any of your questions that are going on. But even better yet, you want a dedicated appointment for yourself to get started on your own retirement blueprint. You can call the phone number below me right down here, schedule your own appointment. There's no cost, there's no obligation. You can also use that QR code. Folks, this is so simple. You've been to restaurants where you've had to use this on the table. Open up your phone to the camera function, point it at this box right here, and then click on it. It'll take you right over to the website, Axum Wealth, and you can schedule an appointment right there as well. Some of the things that we want you to be aware of that have changed in retirement when we get back right after this.
It goes back actually when I was 11 years old. That was the first time I discovered what not having money felt like. I remember being in Sunday school class and one of the parents came in to let us know that the ski trip, which was kind of a rite of passage at 12, was coming up. And so I got my permission slip and class got out and I was that kid. I was like running through the church and up the stairs and weaving in and out of people and got into the sanctuary, and I looked at the very back of the sanctuary and I saw my mom, and she was there with 2 or 3 other ladies and they were talking. And I took off at a dead sprint and I'm waving this piece of paper and talking a mile a minute, and I get to her and she's like, "Wait, honey, what is it that you're saying?" And I said, "Mom," I said, "I can go. Like, I'm gonna be 12, I can go." And she's like, go to what? I'm like, the ski trip, the youth group ski trip. And I'll never forget it. She got down on one knee and she wrapped her arms around me and she said, "Baby," she said, we can't afford that this year." And it wasn't the disappointment of not being able to go on the trip. It was the look in her eyes that she couldn't afford it and that she couldn't do that for me. And I really think that put me on the path of having a heart for helping people get to retirement, to be able to stay retired and to live their best life. And that all starts with advice. And that's what I chose to do for a living.
This is the Retirement Blueprint Show with Tim Lofton of Axum Planning and Wealth. I'm Spike Spangle, talking about some of the changes we're seeing today in retirement planning. In fact, I've got some what ifs, some different scenarios, because you put together the blueprint.
Right.
But then what if life changes? What if there's different events?
It's not a matter of if life changes, it's a matter of when life changes, what and how many times. I mean, the thing we know about retirement is that life comes at you fast. Sometimes we get those curveballs thrown at us that we didn't expect. Sometimes it's health, sometimes it's a family member, but the idea of having a plan for those what ifs is what takes away all that stress.
Yeah.
You know, the one thing that I see over and over again when people sit in our office and we actually lay out the plan is almost like an exhale. Like it's like the stress has been relieved. Not that those bad things can't still happen,
Yeah.
but understanding what you will do if they happen, that's the key.
Yeah, and same thing as planning a vacation that you look forward to. Once this is all kind of mapped out, you say, all right, I know there's things that are going to change. I know there's going to be a day when we're tired and this isn't going to get checked off and maybe we'll move it around. But it's nice to have it planned out and to know then that you've also have a resource of somebody when those things changes. Let me ask you some of these what ifs here. What if you put together a plan today? You call the phone number, or you go right now if you want to, you're watching TV, you can go to axumwealth.com, take a look at Tim, schedule your appointment there, axumwealth.com, right there. What if, though, you put together the plan and there is a decrease in Social Security? Then what?
Well, and that's part of that what if strategy. So we know that Social Security has been telling us, hey, this thing's going to go down potentially 25% or so. And that leaves us the knowledge of, hey, if that happens, what are we going to do? So we're simply going to build that into the plan. Whether or not I think Social Security is actually going to go down or not is irrelevant, but we need to have a plan for if it does. It follows along those same lines. It's the same type of planning: loss of pension, loss of Social Security, or loss of spouse. You know, that income continuity planning to make sure that if certain parts of our guaranteed income go away, we've got a place to go to basically hit a button, turn on income to replace it. If we don't ever end up needing that, we just end up with more money. But not planning for it can make a significant impact. I mean, imagine your income going down 25%, 30%, 40%, and you're the spouse that's left there sitting in our office saying, what do I do?
Yeah, it's a key thing that you just brought up there. We won't spend too much time on it, but unless we both go out, pass away, holding hands at the age of 101 together, very likely one of our spouses predeceases the other. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, at least at that point, I have more of this nest egg. Right. Maybe there was life insurance that helped pad it. But it's not exactly the same income. It's not like there's twice as much there for you now because we do lose a Social Security. Right. And then we change tax statuses, which I think that's really terrible. You go from being married possibly your entire life to now you have to file single a year later after the passing. So we need to consider those income strategies. It's not just how much we have saved right now.
Right.
It's what happens if. What happens if tax brackets do go up, which we've talked about a lot, but what if that happens? And we put together this plan right now.
Well, and that was literally just talked about yesterday. You and I were looking over an article where they're talking about the potential that they may not renew the tax structure the way that it is. And so again, this is all part of that planning idea. You know, a lot of people think, you know, hey, I'm going to retire and then to be in a much lower tax bracket. But that's not always the case. Most of the time, we're trying to keep people's income very much the same as when they were working, because they're going to spend it, or at least they want the opportunity to spend it. Maybe I'm taking a cruise instead of buying a new suit for the office. But at the end of the day, the same amount of money is often being spent. So if taxes go up, that means we're going to have less income to spend. That has to be factored into the plan.
What if we don't do the will or estate planning? And I know it sounds pretty simple to put together a will, but you've said there's so many folks who come into your office, 50s, 60s, who don't even have a simple will. What if we don't do the documentation on our estate planning?
You know, not having an estate plan is such a mistake. And it's one of those things that, like, people are aware of it, but I don't think they really understand the impact that not having a will actually takes on the people that are left behind, that takes on what you thought was going to happen. I mean, essentially, when you don't have a will, you're saying the people in Columbus, Ohio, the legislature has decided where they think your money should go.
Right. Well, that's I would rather not have somebody in a judge or a courthouse defining who in my family is going to get what. And part of the probate process of having a will is that it can be in there for 12 to 18 months. Now, this is
And there's a
mostly to
cost
make
to
sure
it.
that creditors are paid back for anything.
Right.
But now, if we do trust planning, is that prohibitive expense-wise?
It really isn't. And I mean, that's another one of those kind of misnomers out there that, you know, a trust is for people who have a lot of money, or a trust is something that's really expensive. It really isn't. You know, in our office, for somebody to get their advance directives, so their powers of attorney, living will, those types of documents, and a trust is less than $2,000. You look at the almost minimal cost of going to probate, somebody's spending $5,000 there. So it's not expensive, but think about the gift that you are giving your family. You know, when you pass away without estate planning, you just made estate planning your spouse's problem. You just made it your kid's problem. This is a gift that you give to the ones that you care about. It's literally documents that take care of the ones that you love when you're living. After you've passed away, it gives what you want to who you want, when you want, the way you want, with the least amount of fees possible. And for a couple $1,000s, everything's buttoned up. Everything goes smoothly. It's such a easy thing to do, but again, it needs to be moved up on that to-do list.
Right. And I know a lot of these are conversations about later in life, but what about this what if? What if I have 3 kids who haven't gone to college yet, and I see that college costs are about $90,000 a year? How do I plan for my own retirement? Does that sound familiar, Tim?
It does. It does. I'm living that right now. And I've already told the kids we're not going to any schools that cost $90,000 a year. Not unless like 75 of it is covered with scholarship money.
Yeah, there are college costs today that are that much right now. And there are a lot of families who, like yourself, who are at a certain age going, where do I save? Where do I put the money? Do I get the kids through college? Do I save for my own retirement? I'm worried about my mom and dad. We joke about it as the sandwich generation, but even then it can be complicated. Now, for someone like that, that's not somebody who's necessarily going to become a client of yours, but would you also be willing to talk to them to get them started on the path so they've got 10 to 15 years of good planning and investing with a coach in front of them?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, wherever you are with whatever you have, that is the current time. That's today. And I can worry about what I haven't done up until now, and I can worry about what I should have done. But what we need to worry about is putting a plan in place today. We've got the numbers. You know what you want to have happen. Let's sit down and craft a written plan that will make sure that your retirement happens the way you want it to.
All right. Folks, you can get started on your own retirement blueprint very simply. Call the phone number you see down here or use the QR code. Open up your phone to the camera and point it at the black and white box there and then click on it. It'll take you over to axumwealth.com. Your retirement blueprint will include income, taxes, how much risk are you taking, estate planning, Social Security, healthcare choices, long-term care, all of that tailored specifically for you and your family. This isn't a cookie cutter solution. This isn't just a pamphlet you're handed. The retirement blueprint created by Tim Lofton is dedicated to you and your family. Call the phone number. Don't go anywhere. In fact, this message talks a little bit more about Tim Lofton's process.
Do you feel like you're stuck when it comes to retirement, with more questions than answers? For example, do you understand the impact inflation will have on your savings? Are you prepared if something happens to your spouse? How will you replace their income? Is your estate plan up to date? Would a nursing home stay potentially wipe out your retirement savings? If any of these questions are on your mind, we would like to invite you to sit down with one of our financial retirement advisors and discover our trademark process, the Retirement Blueprint. Any successful retirement starts with a plan. Let us plan your tomorrow today. As Americans, we strive for better. From a better house, to a better career, to a better life for our kids. Better has become the American way. But when it comes to your retirement, what does better mean to you? More income, flexible lifestyle, better solutions? A better retirement begins with a better plan. To claim your retirement readiness review, call the number you see here. You only retire once. This is your opportunity to plan for better.
Welcome back to the Retirement Blueprint Show with Tim Lofton of Axum Planning and Wealth. We talked about some of the what-ifs that can go wrong in retirement, tax brackets changing, what happens if Social Security is reduced, but how do we avoid some of them? Come on, let's give some positives. Let's close the show on some what-to-dos notes. How do we avoid some of these retirement disasters?
Well, most disasters that happen in retirement happen because of lack of planning. So if we can make planning and putting a plan together our priority, that'll go a long way. But there's lots of things, when we talk about calculations, this is a big one that a lot of times can go awry. Somebody maybe figures out, hey, I need to save this amount a month to get to this number when I retire. But they forget about inflation and they miss that calculation. Or they forget about taxes. So I get to my retirement, I've got to take it out. How much do I get to keep? And if that number is different than what I was planning for, again, that can set me aside. So when someone comes into our office and they say, well, I've kind of figured this out, my first question is, who did the calculations? Did you do them? Did an advisor do them? Did you do them on a calculator online? That's a great place to start because a lot of times those holes jump out at you.
And there are those calculators, and I've seen a lot of different 401ks. My own itself has one of those. But basically it has the inputs of how much you're going to put in for about how long, and why don't you take a guess at an expected return. Like, what? Right. Why am I doing the guess on the expected return? And then I'll show you your shortcomings, but here's also another one of those kind of what-ifs and things that you can't control. Sometimes there's a job gap. I mean, that is out of your control. So this plan that you have on a certain calculator, you might be off of it for 6 months or 12 months or 15 months trying to get back into the workplace.
Exactly. And understand if I have a starting point, if I have a plan in place, that's an easy way to just go in and make an adjustment, do new calculations, and figure out kind of where we're going. So again, having a plan as a start point helps us a lot with these what-ifs as they come up.
We've heard this a lot, and so many different people working out there have heard this phrase as well, garbage in, garbage out when it comes to input. So what kind of tools do you use? And can you share these with folks who come in with you?
Yeah.
Do they have a dashboard themselves, or do you just have to print it out? How much do you work together with the people who come in?
So most of our planning is done in-house. We do have some software packages. One of the big ones that we use that people have really, I think, benefited from a planning standpoint is called Riskalyze. It actually, the algorithm won the Nobel Prize for economics. So it's a really good piece of software, and it allows us to give people an accurate picture of risk, which is another one of those areas that can really derail retirement. Somebody doesn't take enough risk, they don't get to where they're going when they're supposed to. They take too much risk, suffer loss, they don't get to where they needed to go to. There really has to be a lot of fine-tuning when it comes to figuring out risk and understanding if someone says, you know what, I just don't feel comfortable with being in the market, that's fine, but they need to understand either they're going to probably have to save more, they're going to have to work longer, and at least they're able to have that conversation where now I have something to look at. So if I take this level of risk, I can retire in 10 years. If I take lesser risk, I may have to work 15. And they can say, all right, I'm not as concerned about risk as I thought I was because I don't want that extra 5 years.
Yeah. And we also know this, and it's one of the reasons why you do your radio show, why you do your live events, why you help people as a retirement income specialist, and why you do the TV show, is that we want to let you know that as well that you can catch up. There's a lot of folks who feel like they're behind, or this is overwhelming, or they just don't enjoy doing this kind of planning, and we want to let you know you're not alone. That's why we're here. So if you're feeling embarrassed, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling like you're behind, there's a lot that you can do, right? Even if we're late 50s, early 60s, there is catching up that you can do, right, Tim?
There's a significant amount of catching up that the IRS has basically said, hey, Social Security is in a bad enough spot as it is. We got to allow people to save a little bit more after they get to 50. A lot of times people come in our office and they have their statements and they hand them across to us, and they have that look of, oh my gosh, like this isn't that much, without actually knowing if it is or not. it doesn't matter what you have to start with. It matters where you're going. And the adjustments can be made. Catch up can happen, but you have to make that a priority. You know, we're talking about the difference of being interested and obsessed. The obsessed person is looking to find a way. They're looking for answers. We have those answers. We can do those calculations for people. They just have to come in and see us.
From so many different reports that you and I have both spoken on your radio show on WHIO here on the weekends and on the TV program here, is that so many Americans are clamoring for guaranteed lifetime income, like the pension plans of their grandparents.
Right.
Now, part of Secure 2.0 has kind of kicked that door open.
Yeah.
They're talking about the possibility of funding annuities inside retirement plans. Now, it's going to come down to every single plan. We don't know exactly which ones. You can start to ask your plan provider, are we starting to do this? But is this a possibility? Even if we're, again, late 50s, early 60s, maybe we can start funding something like that while we're still working?
And it's going to be interesting to see how this gets incorporated, how many different products become available inside the plan. My concern is that they put an annuity, for example, in a plan, but it's not the right annuity for that person's situation. I really am excited about the opportunity of if that is the solution, over 59 and a half, they can do that in-service rollover where they're able to roll over, still contributing to their 401k. It doesn't close their 401k down, but it allows them to roll it over into an IRA and potentially have an opportunity for different products, more products, things that may be a better solution than what's maybe in a limited 401k plan.
Right. Again, looking for guaranteed income. And it doesn't have to be all of it. When you're talking this
right.
in-service withdrawal, you're talking maybe we can start to work on a portion. The reason we say this is we realize a lot of folks have $500,000, $700,000, close to $1 million in one of those retirement accounts, those tax-deferred accounts. But now, what do you do as you're getting closer to retirement? Tim, we're going to have to close out the show. The retirement blueprint for our viewers. What can you do today?
If you want your retirement blueprint, if the things that we've just talked about, where's my income going to come from? How am I going to navigate inflation and taxes? If those are questions that are on your mind, this is an easy way for you to get answers to those questions. Just give us a call, 855-684-3485. We will go to work for you, for your family, to craft a written retirement plan that will make sure that your retirement is all you wanted it to be. We want to help you retire and, more importantly, stay retired.
It's that simple, folks. Let Tim and the team do the work for you. Call the phone number. Get started on your own no-cost retirement blueprint. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week.